in the loop, in loop. Hello everyone and welcome to the In the Loop. Martin here. Just a little update on the MandleBass project. I didn't know whether to do bass notes or Mandlebrots, so as you can see from the screen, it's Mandlebrots. So my algorithm for determining a journey is starting to bear fruit. You can see these things chugging away here very slowly, calculating. My algorithm appears to work. So what it does is it takes a parameter, which is how much dark space do you want in terms of percentage, and then it moves the picture around, trying to keep that much dark space, but also it's looking for edges. So the more edges it can find against space, dark space, the better. So it's always going to be trying to move the picture around towards the maximum amount of edges, i.e. interest, and the minimum amount of darkness, or certainly as much dark as I want. In the next video I'm going to do something. I want to use one of these paths for something, but I want to say a little bit about the algorithm. So let's get a piece of paper. When I wrote this before, I really struggled to prevent the algorithm from crashing. When it crashes, it either disappears off into the blackness, or it disappears off into an area like this sort of area, where there is no detail. So what algorithm did I use to actually make sure that this thing always stays on an interesting path? So let's do a bit of paper for 2 minutes on that. Let's get a better pen. Let's draw this Mandlebrot as a simple shape. Some sort of edge like this. And what we see is the bands that run like this. This area here, this is dark. So if I was going to, in this area here, these bits are interesting. So if I was going to actually zoom this in by myself, I would obviously attempt to keep zooming into the interesting areas into here. But how's the computer going to work out where to zoom into? Here's a picture. Where do we zoom into? So the algorithm that I designed makes a choice. It says I can zoom I can move this way, I can move this way, I can move this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, or this way. So there's 8 possibilities. So which possibility do we choose? So the way I chose was to score each possibility, so to recalculate each frame by moving it in all those different directions. And the way I scored it turned out to be a lot simpler than I thought. I added up how many pixels were dark. How many are dark? On this side, I asked, how many edges are there? How many edges are there? So this gives me a score. If we divide the edges by the amount of dark, it gives me a score. So for each movement I can get a score. If there's more edges and less darkness, then that's going to be the higher score. So what that's going to do is encourage the computer to zoom in into any one of these 8 directions. So that's all very well and good. The computer's always going to look for the best score. But what happened, I noticed when I started running this algorithm, is that you get a very jerky journey, which isn't ideal, so it jerks around. So there's a balance between how much you move and how much you zoom on each step in order to stop it from being too jerky. The other thing I noticed is I wanted to create different journeys. So I had to add an extra sort of fail-safe or stopgap, which is to say, in my picture, what percentage of it do I want as a minimum, as a maximum to be dark? So if I say I want 50%, if there's any less than 50%, then the computer's going to have to move this way, or this way. Well, it's going to have to move this way in this picture. So there's an overriding other rule that says, please move me towards the dark, because I'm not dark enough. So the only parameters that the path requires is how dark. And there's a video, probably I'll pop on the end of this, so you can see where there's 3 different paths, and the computer goes in different places, simply because it requires a different amount of darkness. So that's where I've got to. I kind of solved the problem. Compared to my last attempt at this, which took ages, I've managed to find a path through the Mandlebrot set without either crashing, disappearing off here, or disappearing off into the darkness. The final thing I did, which you'll see in that video, is I've merged the 3 paths together and coloured them differently, red, green and blue, and then you can watch the 3 paths as they fall over each other. Thank you very much for watching. That's it really for this little update. I've got one more thing in mind, and I hope that I'll be able to bring that to you in part 3 of MandleBass